Good morning. So I want to talk a little bit about losing yourself in order to find yourself. And whenever you find a truth in life, you see that it works on the large scale and it works on the lower scale, on the small scales. Wherever you find a pattern of the universe, it works through and through. And so you can also look at the spiritual awakening where you lose yourself, and a lot of times it comes in through traumas. Like all of a sudden there's a big shakeup in your life and you lose yourself. You all of a sudden everything that you have created in your life, everything that you have banked your experience on, all of your belief systems, everything breaks down all at once and you completely lose yourself. It could come by way of divorce, it could come by way of losing somebody, it could just come out of the blue. All of a sudden you have this epiphany, or you have a lot of pressure, and then it's just like there's this release, and then everything in your life seems to go upside down and you lose yourself in order to re-find yourself. And that's the process of the spiritual awakening, is that we're going through life, going through life, going through life, and then at some point you built these towers on this faulty base, and the base is pulled out of underneath you and everything just topples, and then you're like, oh, wait a minute, I'm a higher being. There's way more to life than this. You come to this place where you start looking for more meaning, or you start looking at your life and saying, well, wait a minute, how did it get to this point? This isn't what I want. This isn't where I am. This isn't in sync with who I am. And so you kind of lose who your identity of who you thought you were up until that point. And then at this point, the ego death starts in, and you go into dark night of the soul, and you can go into deep depression. But it's actually you're mourning yourself in order to be reborn, in order to find yourself. And and what I also find is that on a more a smaller level than this, you lose yourself to find yourself. So there is a flow in the universe, and when you get into your sync with yourself and you get into your own flow, the universe will lead you exactly to where you need to be, that without force. All of a sudden you'll find yourself in doing exactly what you love doing, without meaning, without even giving it thought, without even knowing where you were going, without force. So when we're going through life, a lot of times there'll be moments where we start feeling we're doing something and we're pushing forward, and then we start feeling this unease as we go. And what we really need to do in these points is recenter ourselves energetically and really try to feel, what is it about this situation that is making me feel uneasy? What is it about the situation that, when we're doing something and it is not feeling like it's flowing for us, or we feel like we start getting tense, or we start having feeling pressure, we really need to go in deep and see what the universe is telling us, what in this act is creating this experience, what in this act is making me feel uneasy. And we need to come back into ourselves and figure it out. So sometimes we need to lose ourselves in order to find ourselves. So if we can't put our finger on it, or we don't know what the next step is, then we just get into the flow. You can bring yourself into the now, start doing dishes, bring yourself out of whatever it is that you're doing, take the focus away from it. Because sometimes if we have focus on something and we keep on trying, we're beating up the same bush. We keep going around in circles, and we can't find the reasoning. There was a book that I read. It was called You and the Number Two, like you forte. It's like, and it's I don't remember the name of who wrote it, but it's like taking quantum leaps in your life. It's called You². And so it's like you to the two is squared, U². And so it's finding a way to make quantum leaps in your life. Excellent book. 30 pages, and it took me like weeks to get through it, because every single page you read, it's like, oh, you have to let it settle for a minute. So it took me a while to get through the book. You can read it in half an hour all the way through. But if you're really, you can read it a half an hour all the way through. It's one of those books that you read a few times and you keep on getting more and more and more. Another book I suggest is As a Man Thinketh. It's an audiobook all over the internet. As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. I think that is probably my favorite book in the world. Um, it's written so like, and it like tickles your brain as you go through it. It was written like 100 years ago, over 100 years ago for sure, and it like as it goes, you can just feel the author through the book. I love things like that. He passes his see energy is something that you can pass on. You can pass it through your art. You can pass it through your expression, and so a lot of times if we're doing a task and it starts feeling uneasy, let's say like the website, that'll give you an example on me. I'm you building this website and I keep getting to these places where I can't make a decision, where it's not flowing for me and there's something there that I just can't push through. And I keep on going around. When I sit on it, I can just sit on it and keep going around the same spiral, the same spiral, the same spiral. Why was I saying about that book? That he in the beginning of the book, the very first story that he has is he tells me about this. He's sitting in this room in this motel in Canada somewhere, and there a few feet away from him there is a life and death struggle going on, and there's a fly trying to get out of a window, right? But and he keeps on putting all of his energy into trying to get out of that window, trying to get out of the window. The window's closed, right? So he's pushing against the glass, and it's obvious that his take on it is I'm going to push through this and I'm going to get through it, no matter what. I'm going to push through this. And if he would have just taken the fly and ultimately he's going to find his death there. He's exerting all of his energy. He's never going to be able to get out of that window, a closed window. And ultimately he's going to die there on that pain. And what the author said is that if just for a moment he were to say, okay, wait a minute, remove himself from the situation, look around to see if there are other options, he would have seen that like a few feet behind him, there's an open door and he could just fly right out of the open door. So the point of it is that there are very simple, when you're pushing at something, you're trying to force it and you keep on trying to go down that same route, you're going around in these spirals and you can't see the answer. Sometimes it's better just to remove yourself from it and take a breather for a minute and allow something else to come in or allow the answers to come to you. So I know that I'm building this site and the site is coming along. It's coming along magnificently. But there's all sorts of little points that I'm not sure how I want to resolve them. How do I bring all of these different things that I do into one place? Because there's so many different parts of it. There's like the store and there's products that I've been selling for years that already I have evolved from, but they still, we have to provide for the body. So there's all of these things that come into the store. They're kind of they are, they do represent me, but they represent me in different aspects. They're close. And then how do I bring this spiritual aspect into it? And then I have writings that I did, and I have these movies that I do, and then how do I bring all of this together and into one? And so I have all of these questions in me. And so whenever I get to that point where I feel like I'm just butting heads with myself, I'm just like beating my head against the glass window, right? I take myself back for a minute. I get into the moment. And by getting into the moment, it's just doing the natural next step that there is to do in this 3D world. So it could be just going and doing dishes. It could be folding laundry. It could be I get another package ready to send to Amazon. Or it could be that I come out on the side of the mountain to the entrance of a cave, this massive cave, and film a video or get inspired. So really it's like learning how to follow your nose and learning how to allowing things to fall out so new things will come in. So it's like not trying to force yourself. It's like when you have the spiritual awakening and you have to lose yourself in order to find yourself. So instead of beating your head against the wall and keep on going down the same path that you've been going through, sometimes you just remove yourself from the situation and allow yourself this breather, and then get into the flow and trust that the universe is going to, because you are in your flow and in your essence, and you get into the now, into this time, space, matter energy of the right now, and just allow the universe to lead you through, and all of a sudden it will lead you to the next step in your path. It'll lead you naturally when you are in your natural essence and you are in the now. Something it'll come up when you allow your mind to be emptied from your worries, from whatever it is that is on top of you. You sometimes, sometimes you just need to take action and to resolve things, so that once you resolve something, so it's always a balance, right? Once you resolve something, it's already off your plate. You don't have to worry about it anymore, right? So a lot of times it's about resolving things. Some things that aren't going to disappear. You have a parking ticket that you have to take care of. You need to take care of that parking ticket so that you can get it off of your mind, and it's not like go out on the mountain and forget about the parking ticket. Um, so you really have to use your judgment here. But in some things, like for instance, building the site, part of it is pushing through. Part of it is that I have to sit down and I have to do the mechanics of it. And part of it is removing myself to allow it to come back in a new light. Removing myself from the window pane so that I have the opportunity to see the door open behind me. Or on the spiritual awakening, it's like breaking down the old so that the new can come in. And by getting into the moment, getting into the now, I allow the flow, I allow myself to flow. And then all of a sudden, these sparks of inspiration will come up. And then act on your inspiration. When you take inspired action, when you have inspiration for a specific route, take a step in that direction. Take one step, just open the door for it. Take one movement so that you can create some kind of momentum into that path, so that the next step will open up for you. Once you take a step, you don't have to know the whole way. You have an idea, take one step. Take one step. If the idea closes down, it's like I said in a previous video that I did about how I always have like 15 projects going at once. And usually, sometimes 12 of them can fall off the plate, but 3 do get accomplished. So sometimes you just have to take a movement in the direction to see whether it continues to open for you, or whether you see that, oh, wait a minute, this isn't the route that I thought that I wanted. It seemed different, but now it's not in tune with, as it's opening up for you. And then you readjust yourself. That's why this life is so fluid. That's why, when we go through the spiritual awakening, when we break down all of our old rigid belief system, right? When we go through the spiritual awakening, we're breaking down these boundaries that were so rigid in us before. They were, we had this, you have to do things this way and you have to do things that way. And once you start going through and you start breaking down all these walls, all of a sudden you start becoming very flexible, and you're very careful of putting walls back in, because you see that life is fluid and that everything changes. And then your base becomes fluid. You become fluid with your base, and then you can experience life to the maximum. So, the point of this video is sometimes you have to lose yourself in order to find yourself. So lose yourself to renew yourself on the big scale, on the little scale, and get into the flow, get into the now, allow your nose to take you and take inspired action. So thank you for watching. I appreciate it.